we all of a sudden we came to the conclusion that we were going to do a show today, and we had a guest, and the guest hasn't shown up, so we're both going to be the guests of each other's show.
That's right, and please excuse David. He's a little out of it today.
So
we're both a little out of it.
The lights aren't on.
So Emily went to Italy.
That's right, I did.
For a couple, 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 settimane.
2 settimane. Okay, and so she's back, and we're going to talk about politics, but in the context of Italy, because politics are always a little bit different in Italy.
Yeah.
So how the heck are they different?
Well, it's interesting that we bring up that subject. You bring that up. It's mostly they have socialist principles that they live by, you know, free healthcare and education, and and then I come home and I'm watching Stephen Colbert with my mom and stepfather, and Bernie Sanders is on, and they call him the socialist and how radical and progressive, and I thought, David Stevenson, he's a progressive and
radical.
Radical. But it's so interesting because I agree a lot with the ideas of Bernie Sanders. I do agree that there's so many other people in the world, Scandinavia, people, and then Stephen Colbert is like, if we're like Scandinavia, we'll be eating pickled herring and be all depressed and alcoholics. No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think that there's different ways to live, and I don't know why socialism has a bad name. What's so great about our healthcare system? Millions of people don't have health care. There's no middle class. People can't even afford to live in Bethel anymore. I mean, taxes are going up, and I'm talking. Okay, go on. No talking.
What?
My microphone's not working? Okay.
You're working.
Okay.
I just wanted him to listen.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
Yes, okay.
Oh, okay.
So maybe men have a tendency not to listen to when women talk.
Don't look at the camera. I know that's what I talk about all the time.
I know.
And here I was looking everywhere but at you.
Okay, that's okay.
So
when I talked to you last and I came back and you wanted to talk about Bernie Sanders, and when I got back I got a little bit of a flu, and my dad got me Mad Magazine, because he said laughter is good therapy. They had a thing on Bernie Sanders saying, what did he say? Well, just talking about the welfare state. They talked a lot about all the political candidates. So I brought it in the magazine because I thought it was something that we could talk about. And anyway, I agree a lot with Bernie Sanders' principles. I think there are, Bernie Sanders can't add 300 million Americans to the welfare state without pissing off the rich ones. The socialist network. Anyway, I'm just like being in Italy, they live a different way, and I don't see what is so bad about socialism and why it's got this bad connotation. What do you think?
Well, I grew up in the 60s, so I through having heard about them, I know a little bit about the 50s. And McCarthyism and
being blackballed,
blackballed by a guy from Wisconsin named Joe McCarthy, who put this harsh ring on the notion of not socialism but communism. And they didn't use the word socialism back then because they could barely half explain what the heck communism was, let alone all they knew was the Russians were at our door and they had submarines off the coast, and who knows what was going to happen next.
The Cold War, the Iron Curtain, the Berlin Wall.
Oh my God, yeah. So there's a lot of countries in the world that as you mentioned, have socialism as their economic form. I mean, it's not a governmental form. Governmental form, you have elections or you don't, or you have a parliamentary type of government, or you have a direct popular vote government or representation like we have in America. But so I was on Marty Heiser's show, not to deviate, but I was on Marty Heiser's show on last Thursday night, and Marty and I are good friends, but we have some serious tussles every time we get together. I mean, we have we both look at the world through the eyes of a Christian, but somehow or other we have different Christian philosophies. And it's hard to explain. You'll have to watch Marty Heiser's show to get a sense of him, and hopefully you can look on his website and maybe look up the show that I was on last Thursday night. But that's all I got to say. That's all I got.
No, but let's talk about socialism again. From what I understand, the basis of socialism is having the cradle-to-grave services, right? So from when you're born until you die.
And shared responsibility.
And I just think that there's certain, that why can't the haves help the have-nots? And because life is a cycle. We all have ups and downs. There's going to be times when we're up and when we're down. And when we're up, why can't we help the people who are down? And when we're down, why can't we be helped by the people who are up? And it's just a cycle of life,
and
right?
Pay it forward.
Cycle of life.
And pay it forward because, as you say, from time to time, we all get into a rut and have difficulties. Yeah. And if we've done our part as Americans and through our government helped out other people when they're needy, then when they get on their feet, they'll be presumably ready to help us out, and that's the way that
it's karma.
That's the way a country operates at its best. Yeah. But again, back to Marty, because Marty frustrates me.
Why are you? Marty's not even here right now. Why are we talking about Marty?
I have no idea. Marty, you're watching. I know you're watching because you always watch. You can't call in because we don't have a call-in show. So, and by the way, Tony calls in whenever Marty's on.
Good.
So shout out to Tony again. And,
so what is it about Marty that bothers you?
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand, that's right. Yeah, yeah. This notion that the way the world should operate in Marty's eyes is if you can't make it, the heck with you, die.
Right. Yeah.
And
sounds very Christian.
It really doesn't. Yeah. So.
The survival of the fittest, you're saying.
And I just sent Marty an article from the Washington Post that was written by a woman that had an abortion after her 21st week, and the latest chipping away at women's rights is they want to make it impossible for a woman to have an abortion after 20 weeks. And this woman wrote an article where she and her husband went in and had their the ultrasound at the point where the baby's brain is supposed to be beginning to function, and the doctor, the person that does doing the ultrasound, that takes picture after picture after picture after picture, and finally, they can sense something's wrong, and they call in the doctor to deliver the bad news to them that the baby basically has no brain. There's just a lapse in there. Somehow the brain has gone kaflooey. So the baby is going to be born without a brain, and the husband and the wife make the decision after a lot of soul searching that they're going to terminate the pregnancy because the baby is either going to be born dead or it's going to be dead very soon after it's born. And I think as a Christian you have to understand that people have to make tough decisions, and this is family values. People have to make decisions within their families as far as what they're going to do in situations like this.
Exactly.
And also things like end of life decisions, where people have to be allowed to make a decision whether they're going to be in a vegetative state for however long it takes for them to finally pass away. And but enough of that. Let's get back to Italy. You got Mad Magazine there. Read some stuff from Mad Magazine because Mad Magazine did an issue on politics in America and the political candidates, and it seemed like they're taking a pretty cute swipe at all the candidates just to spoof the elections coming up, and I don't know, what's it, like a year and 2 months, something like that. A year, month and a half. But we've been talking about this since the day the 2012 elections ended. They were already pumped up for the 2016 elections.
I just want to make one more comment about our socialist discussion. And I think that, if people help, the haves help the have-nots, and there's cradle-to-grave services, and we provide it to people, then I think that if you have this competition, that's just going to breed more, kicking people when they're down. And if you can't make it, then survival of the fittest, then you should just die. Then the system we're in just kind of breeds competition, and I don't think that's, how's that going to make anything better?
Competition is a good thing, but with some restrictions. Some restrictions apply.
Right. All right, so we talked about Bernie Sanders. Who else? We have, let's talk about Trump, Donald Trump.
Okay. He's always a lot of fun.
Now they compare each politician or candidate, to a movie poster. So Donald Trump is Blow Hard with a Vengeance, which is like Die Hard, with Nicolas Cage, Hey, primary voters.
Oh, yeah, Bruce Willis, yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yo-ki-yay.
15 GOP candidates held hostage by one tomato-headed jerk and his towering 40-story ego. He won't back down. He'll never shut up. So he's a Republican candidate. This covers Republicans and Democrats. So we have Donald Trump, who's making, Stephen Colbert talks a lot about him, too, stuff that he's a lot of the news. We have Bernie Sanders, who we said, known as the socialist. Then Ben Carson. I didn't know he was running. I didn't know he was a candidate.
Neurosurgeon,
Dr. No Little. Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. No Little.
Yeah, hear what Ben Carson has to say about the big issues. Okay. On whether evolution is real. If there is some force evolving to the maximum, why isn't everything a human? On climate change, we may be warming, we may be cooling. On Obamacare, the worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery. On whether being gay is a choice, absolutely. Hey, it's not like he's some kind of brain surgeon. What he actually is. Do you have any views on Ben Carson as a candidate? Is he Republican? I don't even know.
Brain surgeon. Yeah. Apparently, he's one of the world class brain surgeons. But but I'm not sure if that reflects in his political thinking. He's
right.
He's some of the things he says and some of the things he espouses, some of the beliefs he espouses are pretty rough around the edges.
Well, what about Trump? Do you have anything to say about Donald Trump as a candidate?
He's more of a blowhard than Ben Carson is. Ben Carson's he has basically some of the same beliefs as Donald Trump, quite a few of the same beliefs as Donald Trump. He just says them in a softer tone, and that's the contrast. That's really style. Style is not a contrast.
But what's interesting about Bernie Sanders? That one of the production assistants for Rich's show was saying that Bernie's been saying the same thing for however long. At least when you keep saying the same thing, it's not like you're flip-flopping and changing your views. Like, at least you can believe that his views are what would you call that? He's sincere, or he has beliefs.
He's very consistent for however long he's been in politics, which I think is about 40 years. He was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, and then he ran for a number of offices statewide and was not successful. But then he ran for the House of Representatives from Vermont. And Vermont has only one representative because they only have their population is small. So they're like some states like Montana, where you have two senators, but you only have one representative.
Interesting.
And interestingly enough, the NRA fought against the Republican candidate, the Republican incumbent, and vowed to have him thrown out just to teach him a lesson, and they did. And they were willing to take anybody except the incumbent Republican, and they got Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders is interesting on what we call gun control, in that he can look at both sides of an issue and pretty reasonably and pretty fairly. And on gun control, he says he recognizes that in a state like Vermont, which is a very rural, very heavily forested state, there are a lot of hunters there.
right?
Both in-state and folks that go to Vermont in order to hunt. And he recognizes that the guns are an integral part of their society.
Right.
But on the other hand, he recognizes that in cities that guns have no place. And that's a very reasonable stance to take, in my opinion. And this is how he's been. And he's willing to talk to, and I don't know if you saw it or not. He went to Liberty University, which is a very conservative Christian university, and he asked, and they allowed him to come visit to the students, and they had the entire student body comes to I believe it's a weekly convocation where they have a guest who speaks. And Bernie spoke about socialism. He acknowledged that he and they probably have a wide gap of disagreement between them and folks like Bernie. But he said we have to get together and we have to discuss these things. We have to talk because we have to find consensus on the things that we do agree about. And he was pretty well received. And this is something that I think is really important, and it speaks well about him in terms of leadership, that he brings people together to at least have a conversation and look for common ground. And that's hey, he stole our idea. That's what we've been doing here for on the show. Well, not just during Emily's tenure, but during the last 6.5 years, is we bring people on that don't necessarily have the same point of view as us, and yet we find good reasoned and reasoned discussion and look for common ground and acknowledge differences of opinion.
Exactly, we can still all get along.
So, is there anything in there about Hillary Clinton?
Well, first we have Jeb Bush.
Oh, Jeb Bush. Okay, yeah.
Schmuck the third. Okay.
See now, Basil's angry at Jeb Bush because Basil Budakat, of course, his show is called Basil Budakat Presents! Exclamation point, and he's kind of angry because Jeb Bush stole his exclamation point.
It's Jeb, that's right!
Exclamation point.
Well, because Jeb Bush was on Stephen Colbert, the first episode.
Yeah.
And then Stephen Colbert was like, well, you have an exclamation point after your name. And he's like, well, people are just so excited, you know. But it's interesting, you know, how I just thought it was interesting how Stephen Colbert told Jeb he would never vote for him. But
fair enough.
And then he was saying, though, Barbara Bush, his mother was on all the, the Good Morning, like the talk shows, saying that there's no need for there to be another Bush in the presidency when you have the father, the brother, and then another son, which I thought was funny. But it's interesting, you know. We have Jeb Bush. And with the exclamation point after his name.
So he's portrayed as a Shrek-like character.
Yeah, elect Jeb and will live happily ever after. But no, he had some interesting things to say. You know, he didn't think Obama was entirely bad. All right.
No wonder he's having a hard time in his own party.
Yes. All right. Who's there is something about. Oh, here's something. No, it's nothing. Wait a second. There must be. Oh, wait a second. How can there not be anything about Hillary? There must be. Okay, go on.
So where's Hillary Clinton? Where is she in all this?
That's right. Where is Hillary? We have
they're snubbing
Donald Trump. She's right on the cover.
Okay.
Hillary's furious road to the White House begins here. Oh, maybe that's it. She's on the cover.
Okay, yep.
She's in the passenger side, and look, it's Bill Clinton in the driver's seat.
That's that seems fairly reasonable. He's the he's the actor. He's the power broker of the two of them.
But I don't know what this metal thing is on his face. That must be a reference to the movie. I don't know. I didn't see the Fast and the Furious Road. Did you see Fast and Furious?
No. That's there's been a series of movies that kind of I don't. Kristen and I. Well, Kristen likes them, but I don't go for those things, so I don't watch any of them. But
so I guess she's. Well, I mean, it's interesting because in a lot of these political shows that I've been watching, when they talk about Bernie Sanders, they're saying his popularity is actually overriding, Hillary's, and it's a big surprise.
He's overtaken her in
that's the word.
In Hampshire. He's beginning to overtake her, beginning to surpass her in Iowa, So so what's
It's.
I guess the Clintons have this reasonable feeling that they've got the Black Democratic Party vote.
Right.
On their side, and I'm not sure if that's going to be the case as Bernie gets to know Bernie gets more exposure within the Black Democratic community.
Yeah, I was talking to someone, and they're saying that sometimes there's when it comes to political parties, some people are so dead set on staying within their political party that even if the candidate's not very good necessarily, they'll still vote for them just because they're a Democrat or a Republican, and even if the person running for the party might not be that.
Well, I guess the story's always been the phrase has always been we don't want the lesser of two evils. But you know what? In an imperfect world, we generally do often have to make a decision between the lesser of two evils. If there's two candidates that we have to choose from in any office, there's obviously going to be one that we like better, and quite often that's not somebody that we completely agree with. But
vote the person, not the party.
Right.
So you're right. That's Roberto. It's either Roberto or some guy at that table over there. But so.
Well, here's something.
Let that guy into this restaurant.
Then here was something in Mad Magazine. They said campaign quotes that would be refreshing. Okay, and some of these people I don't recognize, so maybe you could help me out with this, right?
Okay.
This election is not even close to being the most important one of our lifetimes.
Which is a twist on the old this election. They always say this is the most important election in our lifetime. We hear that every election. How every election is the most important election in our lifetime, only to be outdone by apparently the next election after this one. And that's Bobby Jindal, who's from governor from Louisiana.
Okay. So what do you think? Do you think this election's important?
I think every election's important. I think every choice we make in life is important. Right. So, but to make everyone out to be the most important election in our lifetime, people eventually kind of say, well, yeah, right. Because they keep hearing it, and it tends to wear off after a while.
Well, I think it's a big deal having a female candidate for president. Have we ever had? Geraldine for.
She was a candidate she was vice president along with Walter Mondale. But we've got two candidates this year. We've got Hillary Clinton and we've got Carly Fiorina. And it's another one where Donald Trump got himself into some hot water. So you missed a lot of stuff while you were away.
I did.
I guess she had said something that wasn't extremely complimentary to Donald Trump.
Oh.
And so his response was to look at a picture of her and say, does this look like the face of someone that should be president of the United States? Which is a pretty clear swipe at a woman based on her looks.
Right.
And it drew a lot of backlash from pretty much everybody. But I think Donald Trump has made a living out of saying controversial things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the source. I mean, he's sponsoring all those beauty pageants, and he runs all those
that's his
Miss
take
America.
That's his take on womankind. He judges women by her numbers, not her IQ, but the numbers of her figure.
Right.
I guess.
And the women he marries are usually like in their 20s, right?
And they're all beauty pageant queens.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have, I think it's the fact that we have female candidates. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Here's Bernie Sanders. Reform is not necessary since things are going pretty well now.
Which, of course, is the opposite of what he said.
Right. that we need reform. Yes. Here's Hillary saying, can we please stop obsessing over the children? It's not like they even vote.
That's cute.
Now, what was the thing about the emails? So using the personal emails, wasn't that a scandal that she was?
And a guy by the name of Colin Powell, who was Secretary of State under George W. Bush,
right.
As we said recently, that he did the same thing. He had 2 email accounts. Oh. So he's coming out and saying that this is somewhat much ado about nothing, and
I have 3 email accounts.
Well,
not that I'm a presidential candidate, but
it's really you're right. It's these guys have been trying to butcher the Clintons for decades, and you kind of have to take what they say with a bit of a grain of salt. And we're going to take a moment and have some soup, and then we're going to come back and we're going to probably talk a little bit more about this zaniness.
All right.
We call this year's 2016 presidential campaign, the genesis of it, if you will.
Sounds like a plan.
So you know what? We'll try to be a little bit more chipper tomorrow morning when we come back.
Yeah, good.
So this has been Progressive Soup. I'm David Stevenson, Emily Volpintesta, co-host, and welcome back from Italy.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It is.
And we got the signal. So Roberta.
Hey, bye. What did she say about children? Did she say stuff that wasn't?
She talked to me.